My never I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there. I see them yopo.
You're most welcome to PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and latest updates in politics. If you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell for more updates, like and also share to other members to watch as well. You can also leave your comments at the comment section after watching, or send us your suggestion through our WhatsApp number, which is 0277128777. Thank you. Beatrice has also come out revealing why the MPP refused to explain to us the reason why they can't solve or they can't admit there is doom. So he said they have mortgaged the ESLA for money and they are willing to do anything for money. That's why we are facing this problem, even though they said they are managing the economy, but it's a lie. Without much ado, I would like you to join me listening to what she said into detail. Thank you.
You're watching either via YouTube or Facebook. Do share your comments with us. We'll share with everybody who is watching and listening to the show across Ghana and globally. I am Senna Nombo, and thank you once again. This morning, we're having a discussion on the issue of power. Greatco says we have a power generation crisis. They communicated that in a letter to the Minister of Energy. Remember, about a week ago, the discussion was about the Minister of Energy telling everybody to draw their own timetable if they are interested in a load shedding timetable. There are obvious issues that need to be addressed, and Greatco says we've been telling ECG over and over again. In fact, they cite 2 days where the power that was generated could not meet the demand. And they said they communicated to the ECG to actually shed load. The ECG did not do that, so they had to put off some areas by themselves. So there's a problem, according to Greatco, that requires a load shedding timetable to be put out. So we'll be discussing why we have a generation problem. We're not supposed to have that, because this government's key statement has been excess capacity. So why do we have a generation problem, and why is ECG refusing to put out a timetable? What is the minister doing about it? Well, we'll talk about that. Then we'll move on to the movement for change. They've been in the news this week. First, they were being discussed because the leader of the movement had gone to say that Christians should vote for a Christian who is Christ-like to be president. The MPP did not take kindly to that, but they were reminded that Dr. Bawumia has been going to visit Muslim communities and telling them that vote for me because I'm a Muslim, or the Zongos that they should vote for him because he's one of them. In fact, he's even gone to the north and said the same thing, that there's no difference between that. That was a discussion that took about 3 days. Then the next thing was actually an alliance that had been formed. 2 key names have come up. You remember Kobna Andrews and then Abu Sakara. They have both decided to put their party and movement at in an alliance with the Movement for Change. So we'll be discussing that, the Movement for Change's alliance, and the issues being raised about comments made by Mr. Alan Kojo-Tremantin. Then we'll conclude with the Easter message of Criрақ eάχ. It seems for 2 years that has been his message, that Criрақ eάχ somehow has power. Let me first explain. Mr. Criрақ eάχ is an MP and Minister for Food and Agriculture. Perhaps you might not know him so well. He says he has power and he will not give it to the NDC. That has attracted some attention, including a response at Kwewu, where he made a statement from the youth organizer of the National Democratic Congress. That's the note on which we'll conclude. We'll conclude the discussion of that bluff from Mr. Criрақ eάχ. Well, so those are the 3 issues we'll be discussing this morning. And we are kind enough to have the presence today of lawyer Beatrice, who is a deputy spokesperson for the John Mahama campaign, a member of the NDC's communication team. Good morning.
Good morning, Senna. You are giving me a position this morning. I gladly accept. I didn't know you were the one with the powers to appoint.
No, but you had that position.
It was for the campaign. The team has been dissolved.
The team has been dissolved?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so you are positionless?
Yes. I'm just a member of the national communications team of the party.
My own B.
Yes.
Well, right to my right is Solomon Owusu. Solomon Owusu is a member of the Movement for Change. Solo, good morning.
Good morning, Senna.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Well, we'll also be joined by Alhaji Nusa Fuseni, who is former Minister for Roads and Highways. At one point in time, he was a Deputy Minister for Energy. He will join us, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, and our panel will be also include Dr. David Percy, who is a student of history and politics. Well, let's start with the issue of power. And I haven't seen her so long. I haven't heard her voice so long. I'd like to hear her voice first. Lawyer Beatrice will start for us. But very importantly, don't forget to share your comments with us. It's important. Lawyer?
Okay, Sana, good morning to our cherished viewers and our listeners across the country. It's always good to be here. I can't say this enough, except that these days we are doing more groundwork, and so that's why you don't see me often on TV, but I'm as active as any member of the NDC, and I want to use this opportunity to appeal to the teeming young people of this country that if you look at what is happening in our country, if you look at the power crisis, if you look at the level of mismanagement, the excruciating levels of hardship, we can only but come to one conclusion, that we have a leadership crisis in the country. Not just a leadership crisis, but that which, leaders who do not have conscience. And it's never been about the development of the country. It just has to be about how they hold on to power, whether on tribal, religious, and other groupings, association. It matters not what the lives of the young people are. And I'm a very young person. Maybe on TV I look like an old person, but I'm a very young person, and I can see that 10 years from now, if the young people of this country do not come together and engage in what I would describe as sacred duty to vote the MPP out of power, we risk being worse than Zimbabwe. And why do I say this? For me, I believe that a developing country like ours would have numerous challenges. And it would be very unfair to expect leaders to solve all challenges at a go. Because the last time I checked, the development of what we have come to know as the Western world, some took 400 years, some took 100 years. You know, when the issue of the cathedral came up, you will be told that, for instance, the Notre Dame was built over a period of 100 years. It tells you that sometimes development can take years. And so because developing a nation can take years, it is important that we examine what our leaders do between the short to medium term. I'm using this analogy because we all know, maybe if you are above 30 years or 35 years, you would vividly recall that during President Rawlings' time, we had doomsday, we had power crisis. President Rawlings did his part and then handed over to President Kufuor. We had power crisis in President Kufuor's time. In fact, one of the greatest criticism of the Kufuor administration was that he failed to brutally address the issue, and then they buzzed men of God to Akusumo to go and pray. Obviously, prayer can't solve everything. And there is so much prayer can do, but it's also the reason God gave us wisdom. And so we had power crisis in President Kufuor's time. In President Mills's time, we had the issue of power crisis. And to credit President Kufuor, he attempted to build the Bui Dam. But you know, that is what we called something that is not reliable. So it did not solve the issue of the power crisis.
Peaking plant.
Pardon?
They said it's a peaking.
It's a peaking plant. That is how bad. for the purposes of our listeners who are not in the energy space, it's not something that you can rely on to solve the issue of power generation and power crisis. And then came President Mahama, who had the opportunity to use short-term measures to solve the power crisis like his predecessors did. Because you know, in this country, naked partisanship blinds some people so much that if you're a political party and you don't have the political will to think 10 years, 20 years ahead of you, you'll be tempted to take short-term decisions for the purposes of election. And so you realize that when it came to the issue of Dumsor under President Mahama, it traveled for well over 1 year. Why? President Mahama said that we cannot have crisis for well over 20 years or 19 years, and even beyond, because you're talking about some 24 years, and be using consistent short-term measures to solve a long-term problem. Because one, the issue of power crisis affects industries. The issue of power crisis affects employment. The issue of power crisis affects the daily lives of people. It affects the health of people. And so you cannot simply treat power crisis with short-term gratification because you have an election ahead of you. So you just bring the toy generators that President Kufuor brought and you power it in the interim and then go into an election. No. President Mahama, being the visionary that he is, said that our problem when you do a critical analysis of the sector was a generation problem. And then Akosombo and just some few others was supplying. And our demand for electricity back in 2012 was increasing on the average by 10% annually. So it means that if the growth should continue by 10 years, you will need 100% of the existing capacity to be able to power industries, homes, and anybody who needs electricity. So what did President Mahama do? President Mahama engaged in adding on to what we call the generation capacity, where whatever you have to do to get electricity, you can generate electricity through hydro, through thermal plants, through solar, through wind, and so many others if you go into renewable and other things. But this morning, that's not the focus of the discussion. So President Mahama said at the time, our generation capacity was just over 2,500 megawatts. And even with this generation capacity, we were not generating at 100%. So you had the issue of power crisis. And so what did he do? First of all, he brought the Ameri. He brought the car power. He brought the Amandi. He brought AXA. He brought Asogli Phase 2. So that these plants together will help us double our generation capacity. So by the time the NDC left power, our generation capacity had moved from 2,500 to over 5,000 megawatts. Now, I want viewers to journey with me. I'll try to make the next phase of my explanation on why this government has been so reckless. I don't want to be too technical so viewers and listeners can understand. Now, if President Mahama added over 5,000 megawatts to the increase the generation to 5,000 megawatts, it meant that our peak demand was somewhere around 3,000 megawatts. Then you needed 12% to 15% of your generation capacity as what we call your reserve margin. Now, in addition to the reserve margin, we anticipate that when ECG is transmitting power, you will make some losses. Sometimes the losses which are acceptable are between 10% to 20-21%. What happened? So when you add all these things, you realize that we didn't really have excess capacity. Why? When the NDC assumed power in 2009, electricity coverage was 66.7% under President Kufuor. The NDC increased electricity coverage to 82.5%, a total of 15.7%. So at the time we were adding on to the generation, we were also expanding electricity to rural communities, and in excess of about 2,000 communities were connected. I have been going around with President Mahama. In every constituency we have gone to, you would hear the people say that where you extended electricity to, for the past 7 years, they have not added on. So the communities the NDC extended electricity to, where they ended, this government has not done it. This government is growing electricity at 0.6% annually compared to what President Mahama did, 15.7%. So they came to power, they met this 5,000 megawatts. They refused to expand electricity, and then the vice president came to lie that, you know what, all the economic mess we are going through is because we are having to pay for something we call excess power. That the NDC brought so much electricity that we don't even know what to do with it. But the NDC knew what we wanted to do with the excess power. One, for investors to come into your country, they had to be sure that you had between 20 to 30% of excess power so that they can get access to electricity. So you realize that under the NDC, foreign direct investment increased. The NDC realized that VALCO was not producing to capacity. And so for VALCO to produce to capacity and other plans to produce to capacity, you needed to have that thing. The NPP said that, oh, this is what the NDC has done. Now we have too much electricity. What did they do? They did politics with the revenue handle that President Mahama added to sustain the excess power as well as the energy sector debt, which is the ESLA. You will recall vividly, Baumia was everywhere saying that, oh, ESLA is a nuisance tax. When we come, we will abolish ESLA. By the time President Mahama was exiting power, the entire energy sector debt, not just power, but if you add the upstream, midstream, downstream, plus power, was about $2.4 billion. The idea was that ESLA was to retire these debts and also become a revenue handle to tackle future debts that will accrue. When they came, the only reason why we are experiencing this power crisis is that the NPP government mortgaged the ESLA for loan. They took so much money and used the ESLA as a collateral and said that, oh, we were going to retire all the debt. In fact, they floated bonds and people, purchased these bonds. What did they use the money for? It tells you that it is not just in the area of electricity, it's in the area of education, health, economy. These guys are mismanaging the economy. So today, if you don't have electricity to listen to us, and because of that you may be watching on your phone, or you are using a radio and you don't have electricity, but you are using those, we call them Walkman, or every time you've had to sleep in the heat, the reason is that the revenue handles and the money President Mahama left behind for this government, they have used it as a collateral to take a loan. And these loans, they have misused the money, and so they are not paying the generating companies. So it is not an issue of generation because we don't have the capacity. The installed capacities are there, the IPPs are willing to generate even at a maximum capacity. The only reason is that this government is so greedy that anywhere they see money, it has to be used for purposes different from what it was created. But Sana, in the vision of President Mahama, he saw that there could be a time when a leader will come and misuse the resources of the state, including the ESLA and all the revenues that could be accrued. So what did he do? He introduced something we call the cash waterfall system. The cash waterfall system says that to avoid chronism and for people not to be paying Plan A and paying Plan B, we wanted to have a revenue distribution system where when ECG takes the money, a certain percentage will go to the generating company, a certain percentage will go to the distribution company, a certain percentage will also go to the transmitting company, so that all the sectors would, be on equal ground for the purposes of sustaining this. You know what the ECG and Nanado is doing? They are using their internally generated funds for procurement purposes. They just want money through corrupt means. So they have thrown away this cash waterfall system. And you hear today, ECG has bought cars and donated to Ghana Police. ECG has bought thousands of meters, so that even where there are meters, ECG says, oh, we are changing the meters. They are only engaged in procurement politics for the benefit and the purposes of benefiting just a few and to get money for campaign. But let me say that if we are having to have this power crisis, and we are having to, in addition to all these mismanagements, we are having to face what we are facing. The ultimate blame is to, Dr. Bawumia is to be the person to blame ultimately. Here, it is not Nanado, it is Bawumia. And why do I say that? So now you remember that under President Kufuor's time, you will hear something like Compact 1. Millennium Development Authority, they are helping Ghana to solve issues. What was it? The American government realized that there were so many issues wrong with ECG by way of debt accumulation and transmission losses. And so first of all, they said that Ghana, we will give you money to do a certain development, which is the Compact 1. And so that was the money that was used to construct the N1. If you watch the Medina to the Adenta Medina Legon stretch, that money was also used. When President Mills came, President Mills continued that Compact 1. The American government was so satisfied and said that Ghana will benefit from the Compact 2, which is to make sure that the efficiency in our energy sector is maximized so that we don't have to have this power crisis. What happened? Under the Compact 2, the condition was that a private entity was supposed to manage the assets and our distribution of electricity. And so there came in PDS. And because the Americans know that these MPP governments, Solo and his people, okay, formerly MPP, formerly MPP. Solo formerly, I can understand. Now it is not. It is not. I'm sorry. I've offended you. Now nobody wants to be associated with MPP.
It's not about that.
I beg you. It's
put me
okay.
where I belong.
Movement for change.
Fantastic.
Then you were part of them. Then
no problem.
The American government realized that. American government realized that the MPP government would be so corrupt as to, mismanagement the 20 billion assets of the ECG. So what did they do? They said that for any private company to manage the assets of the ECG, that company needed to show that they had the financial strength and muscle to manage the entire assets of this nation, because the entire assets of ECG is over 20 billion. And so the NDC started competitive tendering. Then we lost power. And then Jack Toronto and his junior brother came. When they came, what did they do? Dr. Baumia, as head of the economic management team, sitting in a meeting, knowing that PDS was made up of NPP people, some who are barbers, they barber. So now you can imagine that the barbering shop you go to barb your hair, all of a sudden, the entire 20 billion assets of this country is being given to your barber. You must be a very proud customer. And so they took the assets and gave it to barbers and an unemployed group of people who have come together to form PDS. Why? Because they wanted those people to front for them. They were on a mission to state capture the electricity sector, the power sector. They wanted to capture the minerals, and that is why they brought a Japa. They wanted to capture the financial sector. That is why they collapsed the bank, so that by their own wording, they will be the controllers of the nation. Dr. Baumia single-handedly, when the US government said that, in fact, Parliament has also passed the law that in the agreement, the company that has to manage the ECG assets must have something we call the bank guarantee. What it means is that in the event the company defaults or fails, government of Ghana and the people of Ghana would just go to the bank with the bank guarantee and have money to offset whatever debt would have been incurred by the private company. Dr. Baumia said, you know what? Because you people are fronting the company for us, we will change this bank guarantee to an insurance guarantee. The insurance guarantee means that it is not liquid money. They are subject to the terms of the insurance, agreement, so that if the insurance company does not think that there is a breach, sometimes you know that when you are going to claim the insurance, they tell you, oh, you must have had a license, so your license has expired. Because of that, we are not bound by the terms of the insurance. And that is the danger, or how unreliable an insurance guarantee can be. He changed that bank guarantee to an insurance guarantee. So now, as if that was not enough, the purportedly insurance guarantee, or the purported insurance guarantee that was provided by these barbers and friends of Dr. Baumia was actually fraudulent. These were the words of the then Minister of Energy, Amewu. Said that itself was fraudulent. They said they got it from some Alkuts. The people said, we don't even know where this, we don't have an idea about any company called PDS. And so these Americans cancelled the compact too and took their monies away. The monies which PDS collected at the time they were put in charge of the ECG, the monies are nowhere to be found. They are with the friends and families of this government. And so you would understand that the crisis we are in is because the NPP deliberately calculated to take away the assets of this country. They deliberately calculated to take away the livelihoods of people after President Mahama has gone through the pain of being vilified by the same NPP and solving the issue of the power crisis. Now, what are we being told? We are being told that, oh, the IPPs are telling many people in confidence that this government is doing pick and choose and giving money to the IPPs. The IPPs, because they use thermal plants, they operate with fuel, gas. President Mahama, in his wisdom, built one of the biggest investments in the history of Ghana's energy sector after Akosombo Dam, which is the Atuabo gas plant. Today, the Atuabo gas plant is saving us in excess of $300 million annually. Otherwise, despite all these mismanagement and recklessness, we would have had to raise an additional $300 million somewhere to supply gas. Now, because the supply of gas from the Atuabo alone cannot even meet the demand, this government is not paying the IPPs. They look at you. The companies that the president's brother supplies fuel to power our plants, they will pay them. And they will leave the rest. They will not pay them. Asogli has had to shut down because they are not paying them at all. As Otogbe Afede, if they even get him, they will bury him alive. They are not paying them, and they are paying Nanado's cronies and family members. And so, not every plant is functional. That is why we are where we are. And you see, it would not have been an issue if we are just having to have a power crisis. The issue we are having is government's lackadaisical attitude about the crisis. The energy minister says that to hell with us. He has money to buy plants. He has plants in his office. He has AC in his car. He has plants in his house. So when he leaves his office AC, he will sit in his car AC and arrive in his house AC. The rest of us, we can go to hell. He has asked us to publish our timetable. If you want your timetable, please publish it. The temerity and the effrontery to insult the sensibilities of Ghanaians. And in all these discussions, I can tell you for a fact that there is no solution. Government is not even holding various meetings on this to say that, oh, how can we even solve this power crisis? No, it is not their headache. And this is evident by the fact that PURC is always in an exchange and banter with ECG. PURC will say, you are not doing this. ECG says we are doing, we will do it at our own time. Why must we as a people subject ourselves to the tyranny of the MPP in a way that betrays our conscience? And while we are being, malhandled as people, while they disrespect us, because of course, even under their bed, you can find more than $1 million. You can imagine what can be found in their kitchen and other things. So they simply cannot appreciate the pain. They simply don't care, and they know that they are on their way out of power. And so let's do anything, manage the situation as it is, and leave it to the NDC, of course, the man who knows how to solve himself, to come and solve this one too. Otherwise, I cannot tell the motivation behind the lackadaisical attitude. Everybody is denying there is a power crisis. So now, GRIDCO, which is not supposed to even be the ones communicating with citizens, are saying that ECG is lying. And so we have had to shut down some of the lines. They are not supposed, they are just a transmission company. So normally they should not even have interface with the people. It is ECG and Netco that is supposed to be interacting with the people. But enough of the lies. Every time, people in ECG, people in GRIDCO, people in VRA, they keep sending us the messages. Things are worse than you people think it is. The things are getting worse. Nobody is listening to technical advice. These guys are just in to enrich their families and friends. But I came to tell the MPP that the day of reckoning will come. The day where people will say that enough is enough, we are tired of your mismanagement, will come. Because you cannot run down a 5,000 megawatt. How did we move from excess capacity to doom so?
Please drop it for me. And
so you can tell that not just in the electricity sector, in every sector of the economy, in education, in employment, in health. As for health, is even sad. In every aspect, these guys are just, it's as if they are just existing. They only see procurement opportunity. They don't see an opportunity to make the lives of people better. But I say that nature has a way of paying people back. So they will take the money, but they will use it to buy strange medicines like they are doing. They think we don't know their ministers have dialysis machines in their home. You can take the money and buy the dialysis machine, but you cannot eat fufu. And the ordinary Ghanaian may be able to eat fufu. And so the karma will deal with these people.
Beatrice, thank you. Thank you very much. To put it on record, Solo is here on the ticket of the movement for change. No, but there's a history to there's a history to it that yes. Well, that's Beatrice Anan. Now I refer to you only as a member of the communication team of the National Democratic Congress. Okay. This one is from Awilo Atito Lawrence, GPRTU, who says, why should the managing director of the electricity company of Ghana decide not to listen to Ghanaians on the issue of load shedding timetable? We thank ECG, especially Mr. Mahama, the MD, for destroying our electrical appliances, all in the name of maintenance. Awilo, thank you for that message. There's every man two balls. Says, I started worrying about Dumso when my okra stew went bad. Has the timetable been drawn now, or Napo is still waiting for us to draw one? There's no timetable yet, the last time I checked. This one is Delai Medina says, please, we those who work for the EC during the assembly elections in November last year are still yet to be paid. Dela, thank you for the message. And I guess now that I've read it, it's drawn to the attention of the Electoral Commission. And this one says, and I thank Lawyer B for the good work she's doing for NDC and Madagana. Elisha from Northeast Region, Nalerugu, salutes you. We pray to God for his guidance and protection. Kudos to you, Mama B. Well, that's coming from Elisha. Let me read Hamza Pickfarm, who says, truth be told, we are here where we are today as a nation simply because the arrogant poachers of functionaries and communicators of this government, they will simply not listen to any advice simply because they feel they know it all, but know nothing. President Mahama did not create Dumso. President Mahama came to meet Dumso, but he took the responsibility as a leader to fix the problem. What we saw under President Kufuor was for him to send pastors to Akosombo down to pray for rains to fall. Today, we have a president and his vice refusing to take responsibility for what is happening. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This government should not be trusted simply because they are scammers. The future of this country under this wicked, super incompetent government is pregnant and hopeless. There's Francis Gordon says, power is the rate of doing work. A nation without energy or power is crippled beyond expectation and is not expected to make any progress. The economy is affected deeply without power, and power, electricity, cannot be messed with at any point in time because it plays an important growth role in the growth part in the economy of a given country. Again, talk is cheap, but actions are the things, and the current MPP government have no clue on how to solve the power crisis they have plunged Ghana into. If you just join us, we're discussing the issue of crisis. Currently, Greco says we are operating only 58% of our installed capacity in the electricity sector. Only 58%.
Thank you for watching PENDREAM TV. We really appreciate your time. Please, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so for us. Turn the notification to all posts so that you'll be the first to have a feel of whatever will be landed on the channel. Thank you. Share, like, and also share to other members. Thank you.
PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.